My father texted me while I was standing in the boarding line at O'Hare Airport. Don't get on the plane. We gave your villa room to Brooke's sister. This week is for real family couples and kids. You'll make everyone uncomfortable after what happened. I read the message 3 times while passengers moved around me toward a Thanksgiving vacation I had paid for. The resort cost $31,640. The flights, private transfers, meals, children's activities, and ocean excursions were all charged to my card. 6 months earlier, I had also purchased my parents a $764,000 house outside Franklin, Tennessee, after my father's business debts forced them out of their old home. My brother and his wife were already living in the guest wing without paying rent. My mother had laughed when Ryan called me, the family emergency fund with legs. Now they were flying to Florida without me, and using my money to celebrate being a family I apparently did not belong to. I stepped out of the boarding line, called the resort, removed every optional expense connected to my account, and rented a car. 7 hours later, I reached the house I owned and found a moving truck in the driveway, my childhood belongings stacked beside the trash, and my brother's wife directing 2 men to carry a desk into the room, where my mother had promised I would always have a place. That was when I stopped wondering why my family did not value me. I started asking why I had spent 35 years financing people who only called me family when something needed to be paid. My name is Natalie Mercer. At the time, I was 35 years old and worked as an emergency operations director for a children's hospital network headquartered in Chicago. My job was difficult to explain at family dinners because it did not come with a uniform or a title my mother could repeat easily. I coordinated the people, supplies, transportation, communications, and backup systems hospitals needed when normal life stopped cooperating. Winter storms, power failures, flooded clinics, medication shortages. A bus accident that sent 12 children to 3 emergency departments at once. I was the person called when everyone else needed to know who was responsible for what in the next 10 minutes. I was good at it because I had been practicing my entire life. In the Mercer family, something was always happening, and I was always the person expected to make it manageable. My brother Ryan was 32, married to Brooke, and the father of 2 children, 6-year-old Leo and 3-year-old Maisie. My younger sister Chloe was 29 and worked as an outpatient nurse in Nashville. My parents, Douglas and Elaine, were 64 and 62. Dad had owned a residential landscaping company for 27 years before a combination of poor expansion decisions, unpaid commercial contracts, and his refusal to fire an unreliable business partner nearly destroyed it. Mom had worked part-time as a church administrator but spent most of her energy managing the family's feelings, which usually meant protecting Ryan from consequences and explaining why everyone else should understand. Ryan had been the child around whom emergencies formed naturally. He was born charming. Teachers forgave late assignments because he made them laugh. Coaches gave him extra chances because he had leadership energy. When he forgot Mother's Day, Mom joked that creative men struggled with calendars. When I forgot to call during a hospital evacuation drill, she said success had made me cold. Ryan failed 2 semesters of college and returned home to reassess. I completed my degree while working nights and was told not to mention my scholarship too often because comparison damaged siblings. He borrowed Dad's truck and returned it with a cracked bumper. Dad complained privately, then paid for the repair. I borrowed Mom's car during a snowstorm and replaced the gas I used. She told relatives I had become controlling about money. Chloe survived by becoming agreeable. She was kind, funny, and so afraid of family conflict that she could watch someone being pushed from a cliff and ask whether everyone might consider meeting halfway. I became the capable child. That label sounded flattering until I understood what it excused. Natalie can handle it. Natalie does not need as much. Natalie lives alone, so her schedule is flexible. Natalie earns more, so splitting expenses evenly would be unfair. Natalie is organized, so she can book the hotel. Natalie is practical, so she will understand why Ryan needs the bigger room. Natalie is strong, so she will forgive us. The strong child in a family is often not the one who feels less. She is the one everyone trusts to bleed quietly. My grandmother Ruth understood that before I did. She was my mother's mother, a retired school secretary who lived in a small blue house near Murfreesboro and kept every receipt in envelopes labeled by month. Grandma Ruth had no patience for emotional performances. When Mom said Ryan needed extra encouragement because he was sensitive, Grandma asked, "And what do you think Natalie is made of, drywall?" When Dad praised me for never asking for help, she replied, "That is not always a compliment to the adults around her." I spent summers with her in high school because my parents said Ryan's sports schedule made family travel complicated. Grandma never called it a sacrifice. She gave me a key, cleared a drawer, and asked what cereal I liked. Those ordinary questions felt like luxury. She died when I was 26. After the funeral, Mom told me Grandma had left a few personal things for each grandchild. Ryan received Grandpa's watch and a small investment account. Chloe received jewelry and savings bonds. I received Grandma's recipe box, several books, and the blue quilt from her guest room. I was disappointed by the difference, then ashamed of being disappointed. Mom said Grandma had believed I was already established and wanted to help the others catch up. "You know how proud she was of you," she said. I accepted that explanation because my family had spent years teaching me that pride was what I received instead of support. I did not know then that Grandma had also written me letters. I did not know she had created a separate savings account in my name. I did not know my mother had hidden both. The house outside Franklin entered our lives after Dad's business collapsed. He had personally guaranteed equipment purchases and used their old home as collateral during expansion. When the contracts failed, the company shrank, and the house followed. I learned the full situation through a midnight call from Chloe. Mom says they might have to move. How soon? A month, maybe less. Why didn't Dad tell me? He's embarrassed. Does Ryan know? Silence. Chloe. Yes. How long? A while. Of course. Ryan always knew the family crisis early enough to have an opinion and late enough to avoid responsibility. I flew to Nashville that weekend. My parents were living among half-packed boxes. Mom cried before I took off my coat. We worked our whole lives. Dad stared at the floor. Ryan sat at the kitchen island drinking coffee and explaining that the collapse could become a reset for all of us. All of us? I asked. Family. What does your family need to reset? He frowned. Brooke and I have been thinking about moving closer to Franklin. Better schools. More space. If Mom and Dad have to relocate anyway, maybe we should find something multi-generational. There it was. My parents were losing their house, and Ryan had already found a way to make the rescue improve his lifestyle. Brooke arrived with real estate listings. The homes she liked were between $700,000 and $900,000. "We don't need a mansion," she said while showing me a 5-bedroom property with a guest suite, media room, and covered outdoor kitchen. "We just need enough space so everyone isn't on top of each other." Who is everyone? Your parents. Us. The kids. You when you visit. A room when I visited. Ownership for everyone else. Dad could not qualify for another mortgage. Ryan and Brooke had little savings and unstable income. Ryan had recently started a family-centered home and hospitality brand called Hearth and Kin, which sounded beautiful until I asked what it sold. The answer changed depending on the week. Home staging consultations, short-term rental design, family retreat planning, lifestyle content. Eventually, he admitted the revenue came mainly from 2 small renovation clients and sponsored posts on Brooke's social media account. Chloe had student loans and no interest in moving. That left me. I had savings, investments, and a good income. I had also spent 15 years believing one large act of help might finally end the smaller emergencies. I found a brick house on 4 acres outside Franklin. 5 bedrooms, a detached workshop, a guest wing, mature trees, and enough distance between rooms that my parents and Ryan's family could live together without destroying one another immediately. I purchased it in my name. Not because I wanted control, because nobody else could purchase it. My parents signed a simple occupancy agreement. They would cover utilities they could afford, maintain the house, and not add residents or make major changes without discussing them with me. Ryan and Brooke were allowed to use the guest wing for 6 months while saving for their own place. 6 months. Everyone repeated it. Mom cried at the closing and said, "You gave us our life back." Dad hugged me so tightly I could not breathe. Ryan posted a photograph of the house online with the caption, "The Mercer family begins again." No mention of who bought it. When a cousin commented, "Ryan, is this yours?" he replied, "Family property." I asked him to correct it. He said, "Why are you obsessed with labels?" "Because my name is on the mortgage and deed." Exactly. You always have to remind everyone money makes you important. I should have ended the arrangement then. Instead, I told myself public captions did not matter if the family understood privately. That was another lie I used to postpone grief. The first 3 months seemed hopeful. Dad planted a garden. Mom decorated the kitchen. Brooke enrolled Leo in a nearby school. Ryan converted part of the detached workshop into an office for hearth and kin, with my permission. They contributed modestly to utilities. We had Sunday video calls. Mom posted sunset photographs and called the house our miracle. Then temporary began changing shape. Brooke painted the guest wing without asking. Ryan installed shelving in the workshop and sent the cost to me because improvements increased the property value. Mom asked whether I could pay for a larger refrigerator because 3 generations used the kitchen. I reminded her that Ryan's family had their own kitchenette. She said sharing meals was important for family unity. Ryan started receiving business mail at the house. Brooke filmed sponsored content in the kitchen, referring to it as our Tennessee family home. When I objected, she said audiences connected with authenticity. "It is not authentic if you imply you own it," she smiled. Ownership is such a cold word between family. Cold was another word people used when ownership became inconvenient. By Thanksgiving, the 6-month deadline was approaching. I flew down expecting a conversation about Ryan's moving plans. Instead, I found the house decorated like a hearth and kin advertisement. Brooke had arranged a sponsor's tableware across my mother's dining table. A videographer was filming the children running through the yard. Ryan introduced the property as a multi-generational homestead designed around connection. "Designed by whom?" I asked. He laughed and put an arm around me for the camera. "My sister Natalie, the family logistics genius." That was the most public credit I had received, and even then my contribution had been reduced to organization rather than buying the house. Before dinner, Brooke arranged everyone for a family photograph on the front porch. Mom and Dad in the middle. Ryan and Brooke with the children. Chloe beside them. I stepped into the frame. Brooke lowered the camera. "Could we get one with the core family first?" I stared at her. "What is the core family?" She looked embarrassed. "The people living here." "I own the house," Ryan sighed. "Natalie." Mom said, "She just means the household. Don't make it weird." I stepped away. They took the photograph. Brooke posted it before dinner. "Home is where the whole family gathers." I was in the kitchen, checking the turkey temperature when my phone showed the caption. I commented, "Almost the whole family." Brooke deleted it. When I asked why, she said negative energy damaged brand partnerships. At dinner, Dad thanked God for second chances. Mom thanked Ryan and Brooke for bringing life into the house. Ryan thanked his followers for supporting hearth and kin. Nobody thanked me until Chloe quietly raised her glass. "And Natalie, obviously." Mom smiled. "Yes, yes. Our hard-working Natalie." The tone made gratitude feel like remembering to thank the person who delivered chairs. After dessert, Ryan presented a slideshow on the television. "I have something exciting." The first slide showed an aerial photograph of the property. The second showed the Hearth and Kin logo. The third said, "The Mercer House, a family living experience." Ryan explained that the house could become the flagship location for weekend retreats, parenting workshops, home design shoots, and small corporate gatherings. "We already live the brand," he said. "This lets us monetize it." I looked at Dad. He avoided my eyes. Mom smiled nervously. Brooke passed around printed projections. They planned to convert my room into a content studio, the downstairs office into a nursery for a future baby, and the detached workshop into event space. My parents would remain in the main bedroom as legacy hosts. "Where do I stay?" I asked. Ryan clicked to another slide. "There are hotels nearby." Several relatives laughed because they thought he was joking. He was not. "You planned a business inside my house without asking me." "We're asking now. After creating branding, projections, and room assignments," Brooke said, "we wanted you to see the full vision before reacting." "My reaction is no." Ryan leaned back. "You did not even consider it." "Correct," Mom whispered. "Natalie, hear him out." "No," Dad said. "It could help him become independent." I laughed from disbelief. "By giving him my house?" "Not giving," Ryan said. "Partnering." "How much are you investing?" Silence. "What? How much money are you putting into this partnership?" "My concept, labor, audience, and family are the value. My property is the building." "Exactly. Everybody brings something. I bring a $764,000 house. You bring an Instagram account and a slideshow." His face hardened. "You have always looked down on me. I am looking at numbers. That is how you avoid feelings." "No. It is how I avoid losing a house." Mom began crying. "Why does every family conversation become business with you?" "Because every family idea ends with my money." Silence. Chloe stared at her plate. Dad said, "Nobody is taking anything." "Then the answer is no, and we can move on." Ryan pushed back from the table. "You'd rather leave rooms empty than help your brother build something." "The rooms are not empty, you live in them." "Temporarily, apparently." "Yes, that was the agreement." Brooke said, "You're really putting children out after Christmas?" "I am asking two married adults to follow the plan they agreed to." Mom said, "This is their home now." There it was. "Is it?" I asked. Nobody answered. Thanksgiving ended with me, cast as the woman threatening children because I would not donate a house to a business. The next morning, Mom entered my room while I packed. "You embarrassed Ryan." He presented a plan for my property to 12 people. Because he was excited. He told me I could stay in a hotel. He didn't mean forever. "How long?" "Natalie, how long was I supposed to be removed from the house I purchased?" Mom sat on the bed. "You live in Chicago. That is not an answer. You don't have children." There it was. The phrase that transformed my life into unused capacity. So Ryan and Brooke need the space differently. Need does not create ownership. You always sound so harsh. Because soft answers become yes around this family, she cried. "I just want everyone close." "No, Mom. You want everyone close, as long as I remain useful from a distance." She stared at me. "That is not fair." Was I in the family picture? That was Brooke's decision. "Did you stop her?" Silence. "Did you thank me before Chloe reminded everyone?" "Of course we appreciate you." "Appreciation without respect is decoration." Mom looked genuinely wounded. I almost apologized, old reflex. Instead I said, "Ryan's 6 months are over in January. He and Brooke need a moving plan." She stood. "Do not ruin Christmas." "Then stop planning to take my house before it." I left. For the next 2 weeks, the family acted as though nothing had happened. Mom sent recipes. Dad sent a photograph of the garden. Chloe texted privately, "I'm sorry about the slideshow. Did you know?" Not all of it. "Did you know they wanted the house?" Silence. Chloe. "Yes." "How long?" "A couple months." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I thought you'd say no." "So?" "Then everyone would be angry." There it was. My exclusion had become the family's conflict management strategy. If Natalie does not know, everyone else can enjoy the plan. You chose their comfort over my right to know. "I'm sorry. I believe you. Can we talk?" "Not yet." I muted her. Then Mom called with a new idea. "What if we all went away for Thanksgiving week next year? No business, no house talk, just family." I laughed. You are planning next Thanksgiving? Actually, this Thanksgiving was so tense that Ryan suggested doing a second family trip before Christmas, somewhere warm, reset everything. The trip became an oceanfront resort on Key Largo during the week after Thanksgiving. 8 adults and 2 children, mom and dad, Ryan, Brooke, Leo, and Maisie. Chloe and her boyfriend, Kevin. Me. I paid because Dad said the business collapse made travel impossible, Mom said the children needed a happy memory, and Ryan promised the trip would be a fresh start without agendas. The phrase should have warned me. I booked 3 villas, flights, transfers, meals, children's activities, a fishing excursion for Dad and Ryan, spa appointments for Mom and Brooke, and a private sunset dinner. I used a travel service that handled emergency trips for hospital executives because I trusted them. Everyone thanked me in the group chat. Ryan wrote, "Our rich sister finally using her powers for good." Mom reacted with a heart. I should have canceled then. Instead, I told myself humor was easier than another fight. The airport message arrived on the morning of departure. My flight from Chicago connected through Miami. The rest of the family was flying from Nashville. I had passed security and was standing in the boarding line when Dad texted, "Don't get on the plane. We gave your villa room to Brooke's sister, Sloane." After Thanksgiving, everyone agrees the trip will be calmer without the property tension. This week is for real family couples and kids. Pay the remaining balance like you promised and stay home. We'll talk after. I read it 3 times. Then Ryan called. "Please don't make this dramatic. Why is Sloane in my room? She helps with the kids. This trip has a kids program. Brooke wants family help." I am family. Silence. Then he said, "You know what Dad means." "No, explain real family. People building families. You're one person, Natalie. You're going to sit there angry all week and make Mom cry. I paid for the week." "Exactly. And you'll remind everyone every 5 minutes." "When have I done that?" "Thanksgiving. I reminded you I own the house while you presented plans to use it. See? You can't let anything go." Mom took the phone. "Honey, this is not punishment." "What is it?" "A cooling off period. At the vacation I bought. Money cannot force closeness." The sentence was almost impressive. "Then pay for the vacation yourselves, Natalie. You want me excluded but still paying? You already committed to a family trip. It is still a family trip, without me." Mom sighed. "You're 35. Stop needing every event to validate you." I looked toward the gate as my boarding group moved forward. "You knew before today." Silence. "How long?" "We discussed it last night." "Who voted?" "Don't say it like that." "Did Chloe know?" Everyone knew. Clarity arrived without warmth. Not one person had warned me. "Okay," I said. Mom sounded relieved. "Thank you for being mature." I hung up. Then I called the travel service. I did not cancel the base lodging because most of it was non-refundable and the family was already traveling. I removed my authorization from every optional expense not yet used. Private airport transfers, premium meal plan, spa appointments, fishing charter, children's program, sunset dinner, beach cabana, golf cart rentals, grocery stocking. The service downgraded the villas to the level already paid and required each adult to provide a card for incidentals. "Would you like us to notify them?" the agent asked. "The resort will." I sent one message to the family group. "You asked me to stay home. I have removed myself and my payment authorization from the trip. The base villas remain. Everything else is now your responsibility. Enjoy your real family week." Ryan called before I finished turning the phone to silent. I did not answer. I returned to the rental car counter, rented a mid-sized sedan, and began the drive toward Tennessee. I did not initially plan to go to the house. I told myself I would spend Thanksgiving week at a hotel in Nashville and decide calmly what to do. Then Chloe texted from a number I had not muted. "I'm sorry, there's something else. Ryan is moving more furniture into the house while everyone is gone. Brooke's friend Madison has the moving code. They think once it's done you'll accept it." My hands tightened around the steering wheel. I pulled into a rest area. What furniture? Office things. Their bed. The kids' rooms. Mom told them they could take the whole second floor. My room? Yes. What happened to my belongings? Silence. Chloe. Mom packed them. Where? I don't know. Did you? I didn't help. Did you tell me? I'm telling you now. After they removed me from the trip. After the movers were already scheduled. Why now? Because the real family message was cruel. The house plan wasn't? I kept thinking Dad would stop it. Dad sent the message, she cried. I know. Enjoy the trip. I ended the call. 7 hours later, I turned onto the road leading to the Franklin house. A moving truck filled the driveway. Brooke's friend Madison stood near the garage holding a clipboard. 2 movers carried a large desk through the front door. Ryan's black leather sofa was already sitting in the foyer. Boxes labeled Ryan Office, Brooke Studio, Leo Room, and Hearth and Kin samples covered the porch. My own boxes were stacked beside the garage beneath a plastic tarp. One had split open. Grandma Ruth's blue quilt dragged across the concrete. I parked in the grass and walked toward the porch. Madison recognized me and lowered her sunglasses. Natalie, why are movers inside my house? Ryan said the family agreement was finalized. What agreement? She held out a printed packet. The Mercer House Residency and Brand Partnership Plan. My father's signature. My mother's signature. Ryan's. Brooke's. Not mine. The packet assigned the second floor to Ryan's family, the guest wing to visiting collaborators, and my parents the primary bedroom. Hearth and Kin would use common areas for filming and events. My name appeared on the final page under Property Sponsor, with a blank signature line. Ryan said you were signing after the trip, Madison said. I was told you knew the move was happening. Who told you? Brooke. Call her. They're traveling. So am I, apparently. I took out my phone and opened the property account showing my name and the address. I own this house. Nobody had permission to add residents or move business equipment inside. The movers stopped. One said, Ma'am, we were hired by Ryan Mercer. Then Ryan can pay you to take everything back. Madison's face tightened. You don't have to humiliate people. I arrived to find my belongings outside. Your mom said you rarely visit. That blue quilt belonged to my grandmother. She looked toward the boxes. I didn't pack it. But you were comfortable directing furniture into the room it came from. She called Brooke. Speakerphone. Resort noise filled the background. Brooke answered cheerfully until Madison said I was there. Why is Natalie at the house? Because I own it, I said. Brooke went silent. You were supposed to stay in Chicago. You moved my belongings outside. Your room was wasted. My room. Natalie, we need stability. The children need actual bedrooms. And Hearth and Kin has a launch calendar. Your parents agreed. My parents do not own the house. Ryan came onto the call. Stop the move and wait until we get back. You started the move while I was supposed to be on a plane. Because you turn every transition into a negotiation. It is my property. There you go again. Yes, there I go again saying the true thing. You cannot throw children out before Christmas. I did not bring children into a house under a 6-month agreement and refuse to leave. He shouted. You don't understand family because you've never built one. The movers looked away. Madison studied the clipboard. Something inside me settled. Take everything back, I told the movers. Ryan yelled through the phone, but I ended the call. The company's supervisor spoke with me, reviewed the written authorization they had received, and agreed to reload because the person who hired them could not establish the right to move into the property. Madison left after calling me bitter and saying Brooke had been right about me. I picked Grandma's quilt off the ground. One corner was stained. That was when I finally cried. Not over the vacation, not the house, the quilt. Grandma had made it from pieces of my childhood dresses, Dad's old shirts, and fabric left from curtains in her blue house. She had written my name in tiny stitches on the back. My family had placed it beside the trash to clear space for Ryan's brand. After the movers left, I changed the smart lock codes. Then I carried every box inside and began inspecting the rooms. Mom had packed my clothes, books, photographs, framed diploma, and keepsakes into mismatched boxes labeled Natalie Storage. The family photographs remained on the walls. In most of them, I was missing or standing near an edge. Brooke had already placed sample wallpaper in my bedroom. A whiteboard listed content ideas: multi-generational morning routine, grandparents raising grandkids together, building a family legacy home. No content idea called single daughter buys everyone a house and is removed from it. In the closet, I found a locked cedar chest I had never seen before. It sat beneath folded blankets, pushed against the back wall. A strip of newer flooring beside it was slightly raised. I remembered Grandma Ruth telling me once that old houses had hiding spaces because people trusted wood more than banks. The chest key was taped beneath the bottom drawer of Mom's dresser. I knew because Grandma had taught her daughters the same hiding place. Inside were envelopes, dozens of them, most addressed to me, Natalie Mercer. First at my parents' old address, then at my college apartment, then Chicago. None opened by me. The earliest was dated 8 months before Grandma died. The latest 2 weeks before. My hands began shaking. I sat on the floor and opened the first. My Natalie, your mother tells me you are too busy to visit. I do not believe her. Call when you can. Another. Your father says you do not want the old blue house items. That does not sound like you. I am saving the quilt. Another. Ryan asked for help with his first business. I told him no because the money I set aside is for you and Chloe. Your mother believes you do not need help. People often call a child strong when they are preparing to give her less. I stopped reading. The room blurred. Another letter contained a copy of an account statement. Grandma had created 3 savings accounts after selling her house. $28,000 for each grandchild. Ryan received his. Chloe received hers. Mine had been closed 8 months after Grandma died. A withdrawal document showed the funds transferred into an account controlled by Mom and Dad. Beneath it, Mom had written a note to herself. Use for Ryan inventory repayment. Natalie has benefits and no kids. Restore later if possible. Restore later if possible. The next envelope contained a letter Grandma had apparently sent Mom. Elaine, Natalie's ability to survive is not permission to redistribute what belongs to her. She is not less of a daughter because she asks for less. If you take from her again to rescue Ryan, you will eventually lose her. The tragedy is you will tell everyone she left because of money. I pressed the letter against my mouth to stop the sound coming out of me. There were more records. Not secret identity theft. Something emotionally simpler, and somehow just as devastating. Grandma's money had funded Ryan's first failed online furniture venture. The account Mom once told me Grandma had decided not to create for me had existed. Dad had promised in writing to repay it. He never did. The family had praised me for paying off my student loans early, while using money meant for me to protect Ryan from a business loss. The final letter was addressed in Grandma's handwriting and sealed. Natalie, if this reaches you late, it is because your mother is still trying to decide which truths are convenient. I have loved all 3 of you, but I worry the family has confused your competence with consent. You do not owe people every room you can afford. You do not owe them every dollar you can replace. You do not owe them silence because they find your pain inconvenient. A home is not where people use your key, it is where they notice when you are missing. Build one of those. I sat on the closet floor until the sunlight shifted across the room. My phone filled with messages from Florida. The resort had requested cards for incidentals. Mom. Our transfers were not included. Please fix this. Dad. You made your point. Restore the meal plan. Ryan. The kids' activities are canceled. You are punishing children. Brooke. Sloan flew here to help us and now there isn't enough space. Chloe. I'm sorry. Mom is crying. I looked at Grandma's letter again. You do not owe people every room you can afford. I created a new group message. I am at the Franklin house. The unauthorized move has been stopped. I found the letters and records hidden in Mom's cedar chest, including Grandma Ruth's account, and the note showing my inheritance was used for Ryan's business. When you return, the living arrangement ends. Mom and Dad will have 60 days to find another home. Ryan and Brooke have 30, because their 6-month agreement already expired. All financial support ends today. Do not contact me unless it concerns moving logistics or a medical emergency. I am not discussing this while you are on vacation. Mom called immediately. I declined. Dad called. Declined. Ryan sent. You went through Mom's private things? I replied once. Letters addressed to me are not Mom's private things. He wrote, Grandma wanted the family supported. I sent a photograph of her sentence. Natalie's ability to survive is not permission to redistribute what belongs to her. No one responded for 12 minutes. Then Mom wrote, You do not understand what we were facing then. I answered, You did not understand what I was facing because you never asked. I turned the phone off. I spent Thanksgiving week in the house alone at first. The irony would have been unbearable if it had not been so quiet. On Thanksgiving morning, my friend Lena called from Chicago. She and I had worked together during a major hospital expansion and become the kind of friends who could share a hotel room during emergencies without becoming enemies. Where are you? Tennessee. Alone? In a house full of other people's furniture. I'm coming. No, that sounded like fear, not preference. Lena. I have airline points and divorced parents who are both spending Thanksgiving with newer families. Send the address. She arrived that evening with grocery store pie, sweatpants, and no questions until I had eaten. We sat at the kitchen island my mother had called the heart of the family. I showed her the resort message, the moving plan, the letters. She read Grandma's final paragraph and cried before I did. They knew, she said. Everyone knew pieces. Chloe knew about the move. Your parents knew about the money. Ryan knew enough to expect it, and they called you real family when they needed a house. Yes. What do you want? I looked around. I want to stop being useful. Lena shook her head. No. What? You like being useful. It's part of you. You want to stop being consumed. The distinction mattered. I did not want to become ungenerous. I wanted generosity to return to being a choice. We cooked a late Thanksgiving dinner for 2. Turkey breast, mashed potatoes, green beans, Grandma's cornbread dressing from the recipe box Mom had actually given me. We ate on the back porch under blankets. The house was beautiful. That was part of the grief. I had bought it, imagining future holidays, nieces and nephews running through the yard, my parents growing old safely, a guest room that meant I still belonged. The house had not failed. The people inside it had converted safety into entitlement. On Friday, I met with a local real estate agent. Not because I wanted to punish anyone quickly, but because keeping the house would keep me tied to the role it represented. She estimated it could sell for slightly more than I paid. Do you need to decide now? No. Then don't. Good advice. I gave my parents and Ryan written timelines, offered to pay 1 month of storage for their belongings, and provided information about rentals they could realistically afford. Nothing more. Dad responded, We will not be evicted from our family home. I wrote, It is not an eviction today. It is notice that the arrangement is ending. Mom sent, Grandma would be ashamed of how cold you have become. I photographed Grandma's letter and sent it without commentary. She stopped messaging. The resort trip deteriorated in small, predictable ways. The family could still stay in the base villas, but the private transfer had been canceled, so they paid for taxis. The meal package disappeared, so they bought expensive resort food individually. Brooke's sister complained the children's club required an additional fee. Dad and Ryan canceled fishing. Mom and Brooke lost their spa appointments. Sloane posted a photograph from the beach captioned, Family trips reveal people's true colors. I nearly replied. I did not. Ryan posted another image showing everyone at a restaurant. Real family makes the best of anything. Chloe was not smiling. She called me on the 3rd night. Can we talk? About logistics? About me. 5 minutes. She cried immediately. I should have told you. Yes. I kept thinking Ryan would move some things. You'd get angry, Mom would cry. And then everybody would compromise. Compromise what? I don't know. My room? Silence. My house? Silence. My inheritance? I didn't know about Grandma's account, but you knew they planned to move Ryan in permanently. Yes. And remove my belongings. Mom said you agreed. Did that sound true? Chloe whispered. No. Then why believe it? Because believing it meant I didn't have to choose. There it was. You chose. I know. You chose the people who would make your week unpleasant if you objected. I'm sorry. I believe you. Does that help? Not yet. Can we rebuild? Not while you are asking me to reassure you from a vacation I was excluded from. She cried harder. That's fair. Do not carry messages for Mom. Okay. Do not tell them what I'm planning. Okay. And pay for your own trip expenses. She laughed weakly. Already doing that. Good. We ended the call. The family returned on Sunday night. Dad demanded a meeting Monday morning. I agreed because the house needed to be discussed, not because he still controlled the schedule. They arrived together. Mom, Dad, Ryan, Brooke, Chloe, Kevin, and the children. Sloane wisely stayed away. I had placed the cedar chest in the dining room. Grandma's letters were stacked beside it. Ryan entered first. You changed the codes. Yes. That is insane. You attempted to move into rooms without permission. We already live here. Temporarily. Brooke looked around. Where is our furniture? The moving company returned it to your rental storage. The boxes already inside are in the workshop. The kids' beds? Still in the guest wing. So you haven't thrown children onto the street. How generous. Brooke, Chloe whispered. Mom saw the letters and went pale. Dad stared at the floor. I asked everyone to sit. Ryan remained standing until Dad told him to sit down. That was new. First, I said, the trip is over. We are not discussing cancelled upgrades. You excluded me. I removed myself financially. Mom said, we should never have sent that message. Who wrote it? Silence. Dad's phone. Dad said, we all discussed it. Who used the words real family? He looked at Ryan. Ryan leaned back. I did not mean you weren't biologically related. What did you mean? Families, couples, kids, people with something to do at a resort besides monitor spending. You used my spending. You always make money emotional. I almost laughed. You asked me to pay after removing me, because it was already booked. No, because you believed my commitment continued after your respect ended. Brooke said, you could afford it. That is not permission, Mom interrupted. We were wrong about the trip. Good. Second, the house. I placed the partnership packet on the table. Who created this? Ryan raised his hand sarcastically. I did. Who told Madison I agreed? Brooke said. I thought your parents had spoken with you. You filmed in my kitchen and planned my bedroom without asking me. You live 600 miles away. And the space should serve the people here. Then rent your own space. You know Hearth and Kin is still growing. My house is not fertilizer. Dad said, Natalie, your brother is trying to build a future. With my property. For his children. His children are his responsibility. Mom gasped. They are your niece and nephew. Yes, I love them. Love does not mean donating their parents a house. Brooke's face reddened. Nobody asked for a donation. The packet gives me no income, no ownership in the business, and no timeline for moving out. It calls me property sponsor, Ryan said. We would have worked out details. After moving in. You are impossible to collaborate with. Because I require consent. Silence. I opened Grandma's first letter. Mom said, do not do this in front of the children. Brooke, please take Leo and Maisie outside with Kevin. Brooke protested, but Chloe stood and took the children herself. When they were gone, I placed the account statement on the table. Third, Grandma Ruth. Mom immediately said, we were drowning. You told me no account existed. I said she helped the grandchildren according to need. She created equal accounts. Then Ryan's business failed, so you took mine. We borrowed it. Did you repay it? Silence. Did you tell me? You had student benefits through work. Years later, You were always financially responsible. So my reward was theft? Dad said. Do not call it theft. What word do you prefer for taking money assigned to me without asking and hiding the evidence? His face collapsed. We intended to replace it. When? When the company recovered. It didn't. We know. Did Ryan know? Ryan stared at the letter. I knew Grandma helped with the inventory debt. Did you know it was my account? Not at first. When did you learn? Later. How much later? A year. Did you tell me? What would that have changed? The answer was so revealing, the room became silent. It would have changed whether I continued paying for you. His face hardened. Exactly. You would have held it over everyone. You held the truth back so I would remain useful. We were family. There is that word again. Mom began crying. We thought you would understand. No. You thought I would survive. You did survive. The sentence came from Dad. Quiet. Accidental. Final. I looked at him. Yes, I did. And every time I survived something you did, you treated survival as proof it had not hurt me. He covered his face. Mom said, Your father did not mean that. Stop translating him. She stared. You always decide what everyone means after their words become ugly. I was protecting the family. From what? Shame. Whose? Silence. Ryan's? All of ours. Not mine. You gave me the shame and protected everyone else from looking at it. Chloe returned alone and stood near the doorway. She had heard enough, I continued. The living arrangement ends. Ryan and Brooke have 30 days. Mom and Dad have 60. Chloe does not live here and has no financial involvement. I will pay 1 month of storage for each household and nothing else. Utilities, insurance, phones, subscriptions, and monthly transfers connected to me end at the end of the month. The house will be sold after it is vacant. Mom sobbed. You are selling our home. I am selling my house. We decorated it. I paid for most of that too. Where are we supposed to go? You have Social Security, Dad's remaining business income, and the ability to rent a smaller home. At our age? People rent at every age. Ryan stood. You're doing this because we went on a trip without you. No, the trip removed the last excuse I had for everything else. You want us to suffer. I want to stop funding a system that requires me to disappear. You'll regret this when you're alone. There it was, the family's final weapon. Without us, no one. I looked at him. I was alone while paying for 10 people to take a vacation. He had no answer. Brooke returned and asked what happened. Ryan said, She's throwing everybody out. I corrected him. I am ending free housing with notice. Brooke turned to Mom. You said she would calm down. Mom whispered. I thought she would. The sentence exposed the entire strategy. They had not believed I agreed. They had believed my no had an expiration date. Chloe started crying. Mom, you knew. I knew Natalie gets angry and then becomes reasonable. Reasonable means she gives in, Chloe said. Mom stared at her youngest daughter as though betrayal had come from the wrong direction. Whose side are you on? Chloe wiped her face. That question is why I never said anything. Dad stood slowly. Enough. Everyone looked at him. Dad had spent decades saying enough only when conflict threatened comfort. This time, his voice sounded different. Natalie is right, Mom turned. Douglas. We took her money. We saved Ryan. With hers. You agreed. Yes. He looked at me. I agreed. No hiding behind Mom. We let Ryan stay because asking him to leave felt cruel. We let you pay because asking you felt easy. Ryan said, Dad. No, she bought the house. We acted like living here made it ours. Then we planned around her because we thought she would eventually choose peace. He began crying. I am sorry, Mom whispered. You're letting her destroy us. Dad looked at her. Elaine, we used her to keep us from falling apart. That is not the same as her destroying us. The room went silent. I wish that sentence fixed something. It did not. It simply made truth available. Ryan and Brooke moved out within 28 days. The process was ugly. Brooke posted vague messages about relatives who punish children because they have no family of their own. I did not respond. Hearth and Kin lost a planned filming location and 2 small retreat bookings Ryan had accepted without disclosing he did not control the property. Those clients requested refunds. Ryan blamed me. I reminded him he had sold access to a house he did not own. He called me vindictive. I stopped answering. They rented a 3-bedroom townhouse farther from Franklin. Smaller, no workshop, no sponsored kitchen. The children adjusted faster than the adults predicted. Leo changed schools without disaster. Maisie liked sharing a room temporarily. Children often survive boundaries better than entitled adults because children have not spent years building identities around access. Mom and Dad moved into a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Murfreesboro. Dad returned to part-time estimating work for another landscaping company. Mom hated the apartment. She sent photographs of narrow closets and wrote, "I hope you're happy." I replied once, "I am sorry moving is painful. I am not sorry the arrangement ended." She did not contact me for 3 months. Dad did. He sent updates about packing, sale preparations, and the garden. Nothing emotional at first. Then one email arrived. I keep thinking about the airport message. Ryan wrote the first version. Your mother said it was too harsh. I said people ignore soft language. I added, stay home. I need you to know I was not merely present. I participated. I cried after reading it because accountability hurts differently when it is honest. I replied, thank you for telling me. He did not ask for forgiveness. The house sold in March for slightly more than I paid. The buyer was a couple with 3 children and an elderly aunt who would use the guest wing. During the final walkthrough, the woman noticed the height chart Brooke had started for Leo and Maisie inside a pantry door. Would you like us to keep it? She asked. I almost said no. Then I thought about the children. Paint if you want. It's your house. Choice. Outside, I stood under the oak trees and felt grief for a future that had never truly existed. Sunday dinners, holidays, my room. Parents growing old safely. Niece and nephew running across the lawn. Selling the house did not mean those dreams had been foolish. It meant I stopped paying property taxes on a fantasy everyone else used while excluding me from it. I used part of the proceeds to purchase a smaller brick townhome in Chicago with a guest room I did not assign to anyone. Lena helped me move. On the first night, we ate pizza on the floor. She asked, who gets the guest room? Guests. Revolutionary. I know. I placed Grandma Ruth's blue quilt on the bed. The stain never completely came out. I kept it anyway. Damage does not erase belonging. Chloe's apology took longer to become meaningful. At first, she called weekly, asking whether I was ready to move forward. I told her moving forward was not the same as restoring access. She became frustrated. I said I'm sorry. And you keep asking when sorry starts benefiting you. That ended the call. 3 months later, she sent an email with no request. I knew they planned to use your room. I knew they were calling the house the Mercer family property. I knew Mom had told Brooke you would eventually sign something. I said nothing because being the neutral sister gave me access to everyone. Neutrality was not kindness. It was a way to avoid losing invitations. I am sorry. I read it twice, then responded, thank you. We began with monthly calls, no family gossip, no carrying messages, no financial asks. When she visited Chicago, she stayed in a hotel the first time because she said, I don't want to assume the guest room. I invited her to stay the second time. That detail mattered. Chloe eventually admitted she had felt jealous of me. You left. I had to. I know. But Mom talked about Chicago like you, thought you were better than us. Did you believe her? Sometimes. Why? Because then I didn't have to ask why you rarely came home. I came until every visit became work. I know now. You could have called. I know. We rebuilt as adults rather than sisters assigned opposite family roles. Slowly. Imperfectly. Dad started therapy after moving. He said the first 3 sessions felt like paying somebody to accuse me professionally. By the fourth, he understood something. I always thought your mother was the one protecting Ryan, he told me over lunch, 6 months after the sale. I acted like I was merely staying out of it. You signed the partnership plan. I know. You added stay home. His eyes filled. I know. Why did you? Because Ryan was angry. Elaine was crying. You were at the airport, far away, and I knew you would survive. There it was again. I chose the person whose pain would not be in the room. Yes, that is what you always did. Yes. No defense. Do you want a relationship? I asked. Yes. What kind? Whatever you feel safe offering. Better answer than I expected. Dad and I began meeting every few months. He never asked me to support Mom financially. Never asked me to forgive Ryan. When he visited my townhome, he asked where to put his suitcase and whether the guest room was available. I laughed. Yes, Dad. I'm practicing. Mom remained angry much longer. Her first apology said, I'm sorry you misunderstood our intentions. I did not respond. Her second said, I'm sorry Grandma's money became such a source of bitterness. No response. Her third came after Dad moved temporarily into his own apartment because he was tired of being required to call every consequence an attack. I'm sorry I made mistakes, but you need to understand how hard it was to keep this family together. I replied, I understand it was hard. I do not accept being used as the material that held it together. She called me cruel. We went no contact for a year. During that year, she posted photographs from old holidays with captions about children who forget their roots. I stopped looking. Mom's social world became smaller after the house disappeared. She had enjoyed hosting church groups, relatives, and neighbors in the big kitchen. The apartment could not support the image. Friends stopped calling as often when gatherings required effort from someone else. Ryan and Brooke visited less because there was no filming space, and Mom could no longer babysit as easily. The family togetherness she claimed I had destroyed had depended heavily on the resources I provided. Without the house, they had to decide whether they actually enjoyed one another in ordinary rooms. Sometimes they did. Often they did not. Ryan's business continued struggling. He returned to project management work for a remodeling company. Brooke kept posting family content but removed most references to the Franklin house after followers asked why they had moved. They never publicly credited me. I stopped needing them to. Ryan contacted me 8 months after the sale. Can we talk like adults? About? Grandma's money. Okay. I didn't ask Mom and Dad to take yours. Did you know? Eventually. Did you repay them? No. Did you tell me? No. Then what are we discussing? He became angry. I was 24 and drowning. I was 26 and paying student loans the money could have covered. You had a career. You had parents willing to steal for you. Silence. That's unfair. Is it inaccurate? He ended the call. 6 months later, he emailed. I used to believe you were selfish because every time you said no, the family became less comfortable. I understand now that we were comfortable because you kept saying yes. I am sorry I knew about Grandma's money and said nothing. I am sorry I planned my business in your house. I am sorry I wrote Real Family. I wrote it because I knew being single and childless was the place you were most afraid we judged you. I wanted the sentence to make you give in. That was the first apology that reached the actual wound. I cried. Then I did not answer for 3 weeks. Finally. Thank you for telling the truth. I am not ready for a relationship, he replied. Understood. For once, he did not argue. He respected no for 11 months. Then he sent a birthday card. No gift. No request. I hope your home feels like yours. I kept it. We are not close now. We may never be. Limited contact became possible only after he stopped treating apology as a key. Brooke never apologized directly. She remained outside my life. I see the children twice a year through Chloe or Dad with Ryan's permission. I do not use gifts to compete. I do not tell them adult details. Leo once asked, "Why don't you come to Grandma's Christmas?" I said, The adults made some choices that changed how we spend holidays. Are you mad at Dad? Sometimes. Do you love him? Yes, that's confusing. Families can be. He accepted that faster than most adults. Mom's honest letter arrived almost 2 years after the airport. It began. I knew the words real family would hurt you because I have spent years letting marriage and children determine whose needs seemed legitimate. I sat down before continuing. When Ryan wanted more space, I saw grandchildren. When you wanted your room, I saw an adult woman who could buy a hotel. When Ryan needed money, I saw a father trying to build a future. When you needed the money Grandma left, I saw a successful daughter who would recover. I kept converting your strength into an argument for why someone else should receive more. I did not merely fail to protect you. I used you. No explanation, no, but I also hid Grandma's letters because they made me feel judged, and because I knew she saw the favoritism I wanted to call family necessity. I am sorry. I understand that saying this may not give me a place in your life. I will stop asking what the apology earns. I read Grandma's final letter again that night. A home is where they notice when you are missing. I waited 4 months, then agreed to one video call. Mom looked older. No dramatic background. No family photographs arranged behind her. Thank you, she said. Why now? I asked. Dad left for 6 months. That made you apologize? It made the house quiet enough that I could hear myself. Honest, do you understand why I sold it? Yes. Do you think I punished you? She paused. It felt like punishment because I believed access to what you provided was part of being your mother. And now? Now I think that belief was entitlement. What do you want? A chance to know you without needing anything. I don't know if you can. Neither do I. Better than a promise. We began with occasional calls. Mom did not immediately become safe. Once, she complained that my guest room had been used by Lena for 3 weeks after surgery while Mom had never visited. I said, "You are comparing access again." She became defensive, then stopped. You're right. That mattered. When she eventually visited, she booked a hotel without asking me to host. I invited her for dinner. She saw Grandma's quilt on the guest bed because Lena had recently left. Mom touched the stained corner and cried. I put this outside. Yes. I told myself it was only fabric. It was. And still. Yes. I'm sorry. She did not ask to take it to be cleaned. She did not turn the moment into her guilt. Progress often looks like a person, allowing the injured person to own the object and the silence. Dad and Mom eventually reunited in a smaller apartment, not because everything was repaired, but because Dad said their marriage had to become something other than him, translating consequences and her calling discomfort abandonment. They attended counseling together. Ryan built a more stable career working for someone else. Hearth and kin faded quietly. Brooke still posts, though less. Chloe married Kevin in a small ceremony at a state park. She asked me to be maid of honor. Before I agreed, I asked, "Do you want me as your sister or because I can organize weddings?" She cried, "My sister." Then hire a coordinator. Already did. I said yes. At the wedding, Mom arranged a family photograph. She asked me where I wanted to stand. Not Brooke, not the photographer, me. Beside Chloe. Okay. Ryan stood on the other side. No one told me to take the picture. No one called it the whole family while I was missing. The photograph did not heal 35 years. It simply did not repeat them. That was enough for one afternoon. My life in Chicago changed too. For years, I had used work the way my family used me. If I was always solving something, I never had to ask who I was when nobody needed rescue. I took an actual vacation alone, not a family trip I organized. Not a conference. I went to Vancouver Island for 6 days, stayed in a small waterfront inn, walked through forests, and ate dinner without checking whether anyone else liked the restaurant. The first 2 days felt lonely. The third felt peaceful. I learned loneliness and freedom sometimes share a room until one of them leaves. I also started hosting Thanksgiving in my townhome. The first year it was Lena. 2 colleagues, a neighbor who had recently lost her husband, and a resident physician whose family lived overseas. 6 people. Nobody related to me. All real. We took a photograph after dinner. Lena noticed I had stepped behind the camera. "Timer," she said. "I can take it. You're in it." Grandma's sentence returned. "A home is where they notice when you are missing." I set the timer and sat in the middle. The photograph was terrible. Half the table was visible. My neighbor blinked. Someone's wine glass covered part of my face. I framed it anyway. 3 years after the airport, I bought a small cabin in Michigan near Lake Huron. Not as an investment, not for the family. 1 bedroom, a loft, screened porch, pine trees, and unreliable internet. When Mom heard, she said, "Will everyone use it?" Then she stopped herself. "Sorry. Will you invite people when you want?" I smiled. "Yes." "Good." That correction represented more change than any grand speech. I invited Chloe first, then Dad, Mom later. Ryan has never been there. Maybe someday, maybe not. The place remains peaceful without answering the question. I also stopped describing myself as single in the defensive tone my family had taught me. I dated occasionally. I had relationships. None became marriage. I did not become less complete while waiting. The family's phrase "couples and kids" had hurt because part of me still believed adulthood was a room entered through marriage and motherhood. Their exclusion forced me to ask whether I wanted those things or wanted protection from being judged without them. I do want partnership. Maybe children, though time has made that question complicated. But I no longer treat my current life as an airport lounge before real family begins. Lena is family. Chloe is becoming family again. Dad is family with boundaries. Mom is family in a smaller, carefully built way. Ryan is blood and history and perhaps future possibility. The children are family without responsibility for adult harm. Family became a description of behavior rather than a past inherited at birth. The money from Grandma was never fully repaid. Dad returned part over time. Mom sold jewelry and contributed something. Ryan offered monthly payments after his job stabilized. I accepted a limited amount, then told him to stop. Why? Because the number is not the point anymore. I want to make it right, then respect what I say belongs to me. He understood. The final accounting could not restore the years when I believed Grandma had chosen the others over me. That grief remained different from financial loss. What repaired part of it was learning she had seen me clearly. She knew I was not less loved, because I needed less rescue. Her letters returned a relationship my mother had tried to control. I keep them in a fireproof box in my townhome, not under floorboards. The first time I read the line about strong children being cheaper to neglect, I thought strength was the problem. It was not. The problem was adults, treating strength like an unlimited resource. I remain strong. I coordinate hospital emergencies. I help friends. I pay for dinner sometimes. I give generous gifts. I took Dad to a specialist when he developed a heart rhythm problem. I helped Chloe after surgery. I contributed to Leo's school science trip anonymously because Ryan asked respectfully and accepted no when I initially hesitated. Generosity returned after entitlement left. That is the surprising part. Boundaries did not turn me cold, they made warmth safer. Before the airport, every yes contained fear. If I stopped paying, would I still be invited? If I stopped fixing, would anyone call? If I asked for credit, would they accuse me of keeping score? Afterward, I learned any relationship that disappeared when the benefit ended had already answered those questions. Some relatives vanished. Cousins who had happily stayed in resort rooms I booked stopped sending birthday messages. An aunt told Mom I had always been too transactional, then asked whether I still had access to hotel discounts. I said no. She stopped contacting me. The loss hurt less than expected because it was mostly the disappearance of obligations disguised as affection. People often ask whether I regret canceling the trip upgrades. They call that the revenge moment. It was not revenge. I did not strand anyone. I did not cancel rooms already paid. I removed optional benefits from people who explicitly said they did not want me there. Had I continued paying, I would have taught them something dangerous. They could separate access to my heart from access to my resources. They could reject the person and keep the payment profile. Saying no prevented that lesson from becoming permanent. Selling the house was also not revenge. I gave notice. I paid storage. I allowed children to finish school transitions. I did not destroy furniture, embarrass anyone publicly, or use my professional relationships to damage Ryan's work. I simply stopped owning the building where everyone practiced excluding me. The house was a resource, not a sacred obligation. My parents survived the apartment. Ryan's family survived the townhouse. The children survived smaller rooms. Everyone survived paying their own expenses. The catastrophe they predicted was mostly the loss of comfort. They adapted. Families often call a boundary destructive when what they mean is inconvenient. I am 40 now. The airport message remains saved in an old screenshot folder. Don't get on the plane. We gave your villa room to Brooke's sister. This week is for real family couples and kids. I no longer read it often. At first, evidence helped me believe myself when everyone minimized the cruelty. Later, I stopped needing proof. I know what they wrote. I know what I paid. I know what I found in the closet. I know the blue quilt was outside. I know nobody warned me about the move until they had already removed me from the vacation. I also know what happened afterward. Dad learned that private remorse does not replace public protection. Chloe learned neutrality chooses the person creating pressure. Mom learned motherhood does not create permanent access to an adult daughter's resources. Ryan learned no is an answer, rather than the opening round of negotiation. I learned surviving people does not obligate me to remain available to them. Last Thanksgiving, 10 of us gathered at my townhome. Lena, Chloe and Kevin, Dad and Mom, staying at a hotel. 2 colleagues. My neighbor. Ryan joined by video for 15 minutes so the children could say hello. That was the level of contact I felt safe offering. Before dinner, Mom handed me a folded piece of paper. What is this? Grandma's recipe for cranberry bread. I found it in an old Bible. Why was it in your Bible? Probably because I put too many things where I thought nobody else could reach them. She looked ashamed. It belongs to you. I opened it. Grandma's handwriting. At the bottom. Natalie likes extra orange. A tiny detail. Proof of being known. I hugged Mom. Not because everything was forgiven, because that moment was safe. Later, Lena set her phone on the counter. Picture. Everyone gathered. Dad stood near the edge automatically. Mom pulled him closer. Chloe waved me into the middle. Natalie. What? Your house. Your middle. I sat between them. The timer flashed. For one photograph, nobody was missing. After dinner, Dad helped with dishes. Mom asked before taking leftovers. Chloe and Kevin drove back to Nashville. Lena stayed late. We sat on the floor near the tree drinking tea. Real family? She asked. I looked around at the quiet home. Real enough. She smiled. That is where my story ends, not with my parents homeless, my brother destroyed, or me standing triumphantly over a sold house. It ends with a smaller table where nobody needs my credit card to believe I belong. It ends with Grandma's quilt on a bed I decide who uses. It ends with letters no longer hidden. It ends with me understanding that a person can be generous without becoming infrastructure, loving without becoming available for abuse, and related to someone without granting them authority over her future. My father told me to stay home because the vacation was for real family. In a strange way, I am grateful for the clarity. Had they allowed me onto that plane, I might have paid for another decade of disrespect. I might have returned from the resort to discover Ryan living permanently in my house and allowed everyone to call it compromise. I might never have found Grandma's letters. I might still believe being needed was the same as being loved. Their cruelest message finally gave me permission to stop interpreting my usefulness as belonging. So here is the question I would ask anyone listening, because people still disagree when I tell them what I did. If your parents and favored brother excluded you from a Thanksgiving vacation you fully funded, told you it was for real family, secretly moved your brother into the house you had purchased for your parents, and you then discovered they had hidden letters, and spent an inheritance meant for you, because they believed you were strong enough to recover, would genuine apologies and years of changed behavior ever earn them a limited place in your life again? Or would the moment they rejected the person while expecting to keep her money permanently close the door?